Roman 34, Romani Queen. They arrived back at Luck's relatives' abode, and Luck unpacked a few items from their luggage, recognizing that they needed to watch some of their belongings. They were also cautious about which belongings they would take from the luggage, still thinking that perhaps some of it contained evidence. The substance thrown over Luck and the smell from when Luck's room was engulfed with the smoke. During the return journey and upon arriving at their relative's home, Luck engaged in a conversation with their relative about their recent experiences. However, they chose to omit many details, as they had noticed that whenever they spoke candidly about their encounters, their relative would dismiss their words and reference their previous health admissions. Feeling the futility of trying to convince their relative, Luck decided to shift their focus back to their own well-being. They were determined to fully recover so they could return to work and address their existing challenges. Only after stabilizing their life did they plan to delve into contemplating the perplexing experiences they had endured and seek answers for what had happened and why. This task proved to be difficult, as unknowing to them on arrival, it would also be a corrupted environment. As Luck settled into their relatives' abode, they attempted to rest and recover. However, shortly after arriving, their peace was disrupted once again by the intrusion of new voices. Luck, who had developed various techniques to identify and engage with these voices, found themselves deploying these methods in this once safe, now corrupt environment. Luck continued to engage in debates and conversations with the voices they heard, often taking their discussions outside while observing the strange behaviors and comments of the people around them. They couldn't help but notice the presence of new residents in the property where they were staying, further adding to the complexity of their environment. They would often find themselves outside, walking up and down, looking up into the sky, while having debates with these individuals. While outside, they would also be witness to several strange events involving the beings around them, from those who walked through the cold half-dress to those who would make comments as they walked past. They also couldn't help but notice the presence of new residents in the property where they were staying, many they would only see on a few occasions. After a few days, two of Luck's great relatives came to visit them. Luck was in control physically, but mentally, they were not in the greatest of shapes at this point. Luck's attempts at explaining their experiences to their great relatives were met with a similar response as before, with the focus being redirected to concerns about their mental health. This lack of understanding or willingness to acknowledge what Luck had been through added to their frustration and sense of isolation. After having this altercation, Luck would be visited by several health professionals. With each professional who arrived and questioned, Luck persisted that they were physically okay, not mentioning anything about any voices that they were experiencing or any of their previous journey. Despite their insistence that they did not need to go to a clinic, Luck's relatives and healthcare professionals were concerned about their well-being and believed that clinical assessment would be necessary. The decision to proceed to the clinic would ultimately depend on the recommendations of the healthcare professionals involved in Luck's care. Luck themselves understood precisely what they had been through and what they were currently experiencing. One evening, a vehicle arrived to take Luck to the clinic, but they refused and managed to convince those tasked with taking them that they did not need to go. However, the following day, local law enforcement arrived, and despite Luck's resistance, they were forced into the back of a health vehicle while their grand relative looked on. One of the voices announced they were the king of Romanis, the other their queen. They came in the early hours one morning near the inn. Why are we here? Another, we walked past. Don't forget about us for tomorrow. The majority, though, were unnotable. Make me cry. Roman 35. Psychosis Part Roman 3. As mentioned, Luck was forced into the back of a health emergency vehicle. The component that they were locked within was more suited to a criminal prisoner. They endured over 2 hours stuck in the back of this vehicle without a secured seat, sliding along the bench with each turn and brake by the driver. After some time, Luck reached their next destination, a health clinic they had not previously visited, located on the outskirts of the capital city. They were led inside and taken to the second floor, where they found themselves locked in with the other patients. They went through the usual intake process, but this time, Luck refused to sign any of the documentation presented to them. Their belongings were checked, and a carry bag, which their relative had packed, was inspected. Luck was then shown to their designated room, where they were relieved to find private cleaning facilities. Luck had no external voices during the journey nor once they arrived. They were very much in the same state and honestly did not believe that they should have been there. As the international pandemic was still ongoing, strict rules were in place. However, Luck did not abide by them on this occasion, refusing to remain in their room to quarantine. During the journey and upon arrival, Luck did not experience any external voices, and they were very much in the same state of mind. They genuinely believed that they shouldn't be in the clinic. As the international pandemic was still ongoing, strict rules were in place. However, Luck refused to abide by them, including staying in their room to quarantine. Instead, they walked around and examined what had unwillingly become their next residence for the following weeks. They did not have any of their electronic devices packed in their bag. The professionals informed them that the rest of their belongings would be delivered to them at a later date after their great relative had cleaned them. As Luck explored the clinic, they realized that there was no direct access to the outside. They would have to follow a schedule to be escorted for access to the garden. However, it quickly became apparent that the staff did not consistently follow the schedule, making it challenging just for Luck to access fresh air. During the first few days at the clinic, Luck primarily watched entertainment to pass the time. On the second day, there was a ward round during which Luck emphasized that they were not physically unwell and that their environment was very corrupt. However, they did not provide any details about their recent experiences, only referring to the initial incident they had previously described to the various other health professionals they had spoken with. The professional would re-prescribe the same medication which had previously been given to Luck. This time, though, Luck would refuse to take it at the designated intervals. On the third day at the clinic, Luck was asked by a trusted professional to enter their bedroom for private conversation. Shortly after, 6 other professionals joined them in that room. They had entered to force medication on Luck. Luck told these individuals that it would not be easy, and they repeated this 3 times before unviolently trying to get out of their room. The 7 would inevitably overpower Luck, with 6 of them pinning Luck to the bed while the 7th administered the injection. Luck was warned if they continued to refuse, then they would need to have this experience daily. What amuses Luck with that statement is the medication can be taken by injection, and it lasts 30 days. However, to not cause more unnecessary scenes and to try and get out of the clinic promptly, Luck would obey and take the medication daily until their free will was back with them. As the days went by, Luck's state did not change. They followed the schedule, even when the professionals did not. During this time, they would only be allowed access to the inside of the garden, and as mentioned, they had to be escorted at all times. Luck found themselves repeatedly having to request, often needing to follow up multiple times despite being on the schedule. The staff were often disorganized and often negligent, which made this process more challenging than it needed to be. We would get to know all of the patients on the premises during this time, but like before, we will not go into details about them. We will, nevertheless, mention one of notability next: the Lord, the Sleeper, the Gamer, the Economic, the Designer, the Crocodile, the Road Layer, and the One from the Valley. Romans 36, a word within a book of books. In the second week of their stay at the clinic, Luck finally received the rest of their belongings, including their electronic devices. This allowed Luck to reconnect to the network and exercise their memory. They updated several existing open-source modules and even developed a few new ones. Eventually, it would allow them to begin work again so that they could earn some much-needed currency. During one of the days, Luck attended another ward round, but this time with different professionals. Understanding that the truth of their experiences was beyond the comprehension of these healthcare providers and that sharing it might prolong their stay, Luck chose to simply agree with what was spoken to them, the yes being. The ward round proceeded much like the previous ones, with Luck accepting the decisions of the professionals. Luck would only request that they be allowed escorted leave from the premises, and they were relieved when this request was granted. Now, Luck had a new opportunity to leave the property, even though they still required an escort. They could finally see more than just the steel walls enclosing the inner garden. The escort times were clearly outlined on the schedule, specifying when the patients would be taken as a group. During the week, Luck continued to join the escorted group trips to the outer garden area, no longer needing to request access personally since there were others even less patient than them. Over time, they became more familiar with their surroundings, including the other patients at the facility. As a place for recovery, the facility housed patients with varying levels of wellness. During their time there, Luck had noticed one particular patient, one who they discovered had been on the property for several months prior to Luck's arrival. Luck couldn't help but notice that this individual had worn the same attire since they first set eyes upon them. One morning, Luck woke up to find that the professionals were forcefully urging the individual to wash and change their clothes. During this process, the professionals removed the individual's attire, which was then taken for cleaning, leaving the individual with material more suitable for those who were about to go for surgery. The surgical attire did not cover the person adequately, leaving some parts of their body exposed as they walked. While some of the professionals seemed to find this situation amusing, Luck did not share the sentiment. Understanding the situation further, Luck decided to take action, realizing that they could help since they were of similar size and build to the individual who had no clothing. They requested a professional to access their belongings so that they could remove some additional clothing, which included multiple outfits, including a winter jacket. Luck gave these items to the individual and inquired whether they had ever been granted escorted leave themselves. Considering they had been in the facility for several months, they should have had the opportunity to do so. The individual revealed that they did, and from that moment on, Luck made sure to accompany them whenever they were awake and the others were being escorted outside. Prior to this, they had never even seen the individual access the garden. Another week passed, and Luck continued to follow the daily routine set by the clinic, adhering to scheduled meal times, escorted outings, and participating in group sessions as required. The rest of their time was spent on their electronic device. And this week, Luck had another word round with the professionals, and they proposed that Luck transition back to a monthly injection cycle of the medication. They planned to carry out this transition while Luck was still in the clinic to closely monitor the effects. There would be a short overlap period to assess Luck's condition before and after the change in the method. Luck continued to remain silent about their recent experiences, and the professionals were simply following the established protocol. Playing the role of the compliant patient, Luck agreed to the professional's proposal regarding the transition to a monthly injection cycle. During this week, Luck continued to follow the daily schedule, including the escorted outdoor breaks. Before heading outside one morning, they stopped in their room to have a quick drink from their supplies, making sure to leave a small amount for when they returned. When Luck was escorted outside, they found that it was raining heavily, and there was no shelter from the weather at this clinic. They were only allowed to spend a few moments outside before being requested to return indoors. Upon returning inside, Luck's body began to feel different, as if something within them was heightened. They were then taken into a room where they felt cornered and were subjected to an interrogation by several professionals who seemed to be looking for, or even trying to provoke, a stronger reaction from Luck. During this period, Luck physically felt their body undergo a change, although it was not as extreme as before. It was a milder, yet noticeable alteration. Luck remained non-reactive to the professionals, instead explaining that they felt different and inquired whether something they had consumed had been tampered with. After some time, they were released from the room but were informed that they could not leave the ward for the remainder of the day. Returning to their room, they noticed that the cup they had left on the side was now empty, raising further suspicions. Luck became increasingly suspicious when they discovered the empty cup in their room. They proceeded to check their body and noticed some symptoms similar to those they had experienced before. Concerned, they returned to the professionals and requested access to the electronic footage that recorded the corridor outside their room. They wanted to see if anyone had entered their room in the past hour. Unfortunately, this request was denied. They also asked for a narcotics test, which was also denied. One of the professionals found Luck's concerns amusing, much as they did with most occasions, even with those who were unwell. This particular professional openly mocked Luck and even went so far as to open the door to draw the attention of another health professional from a different ward, involving them in the mockery as well. Understanding that they had no authority in this situation and that any further actions might lead to worse consequences, Luck decided it was best to refocus their attention. They opened up their electronic device and became lost once again in their coding work. A few days later, one afternoon, while they were once again waiting to be escorted, they noticed a holy book on the side table. This book contained a selection of texts from a religion chosen and revered by its devout followers. Luck, having never read this book in its entirety, decided to open it to a random page to see what it would reveal. They opened the book, and their eyes immediately fell upon one word, corruption, and they began reading the whole line. But these, as natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption. This fascinated Luck, seeing it as a coincidence that their eyes would be drawn to this word first. It was a word that Luck felt described their world at this point, even though the rest of the sentence didn't seem to relate to their situation. They were escorted outside, and during this time, they continued to reflect upon the line. Upon re-entering the building, they decided they would like to gain a better understanding of this apostle's second book. So they went back to their electronic device and purchased a digital version, allowing them to listen to it repeatedly until they had this understanding. As they listened to the full version, they reflected upon the words, and while many were not directly relevant to their modern-day truth, some phrases could be reapplied to their past experiences and possibly their future. We will not go into the specific words we associate with and which we do not. If we are honest, we had no faith before this began, and even less now. Having experienced what we have, we respect all who do worship. We simply question the truthfulness of each of these preachers, wondering if only some or all of them are blinded by what already exists in this world. We know the truth. Who else remains a different question altogether. We write these words to those who already know that we are the last. To the blinded, these words will make little sense, like many others within this story. But one day, perhaps you will comprehend. This story shall be continued in the next book, The Destiny of Luck, Good, Evil, and Myself.